Okay, continuing with this video. The next point that he says is, he makes a statement. He says that Goodspeed is probably the greatest Greek scholar. I wonder if he's actually done some research on Goodspeed. I have, and one thing that's interesting, if anybody's around the Chicago area, you can go to the University of Chicago Library, and they have all his manuscripts and work and everything, because he not only got his doctorate there, but he worked on graduate studies there, but he also taught there for a long time. But some of the charges, which I'll get to in a later point, that Brother Phil, waxsleeptoe, gives me about Bruce Metzger and some of his beliefs, I'm wondering if he's not confusing Metzger with Goodspeed. I'll put on this video an annotation so you can go to this website and see what I'm seeing. Let's see. In his day, Goodspeed would be described as a liberal. His views of the inspiration and authority of the Bible were typical of the liberal wing of Protestantism of the early 20th century. This may be seen in his Story of the New Testament, published in 1916, revised in 1928, and his Introduction to the New Testament, which was published in 1937. Popular level books in which he approaches the Bible in the same critical and liberal spirit as did Harry Emerson Fosdick, the most well-known Northern Baptist author of the day. You can cross-reference Fosdick's A Guide to Understanding the Bible, 1938. For example, now this is back to Goodspeed. For example, in his Introduction to the New Testament, Goodspeed writes that the Gospel of John, quote, cannot reasonably be considered the original work of a Galilean fisherman, or the translation of such a work, end quote. And that's from page 326. He maintains that the Apostle Paul was the author of the epistle to the Colossians, but was not the author of Ephesians. He also concludes that the pastoral epistles, 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus, were not written by Paul. Against the more radical school of criticism, he argues for the authenticity of 2nd Thessalonians, but in a way that is not likely to commend itself to conservatives. And then there's a long quote here given, proving that point. This is from Goodspeed's own words. So anyway, you know, Brother Phil was saying these exact same things about Metzger, but here his Greek hero Goodspeed, you know, is documented that he believed that. So anyway, I just want, again, you know, throwing out these other names of people when you yourself are, you know, not looking up your own beliefs and whatnot. Moffat, anyway, Moffat produced his translation of the New Testament while he was serving as professor of Greek New Testament exegesis at Oxford, and his reception was so favorable in the more liberal churches that he undertook the Old Testament in order to produce a complete Bible. The version is highly colloquial and allows the reader to quickly follow the progress of thought in many passages, especially in the epistles, where a more literal rendering makes for difficult going. But Moffat's version was controversial in several respects. His preface put forth skeptical views concerning the truthfulness of the Bible. In the Old Testament, he indicated by the use of different type fonts the hypothetical source documents of the Pentateuch, and frequently rearranged passages according to his idea of how they might have originally stood. For the New Testament, he used the Greek text of Hermann von Soden, which was generally regarded as an eccentric text, and he often substituted conjectural emendations for the text of both Testaments. In the New Testament alone, he adopts some 30 conjectures which have no support at all in the manuscripts. The translation throughout was highly readable, but often embodied interpretations that were objectionable to some. Roman Catholics and Lutherans were especially offended at Matthew 26:26, with "Take and eat this, it means my body." Moffat later served as executive secretary of the Committee of Translators for the Revised Standard Version. You know, if you're going to demonize certain people for their involvement with modern translations, but then turn around and hold other ones up that seem to have the same fallacies and whatnot, because Goodspeed was also involved in the translation of what was it, was it the New American Standard, I think? Alright, tell you. Oh, Revised Standard Version also. So both Goodspeed and Moffat served on the committee for the Revised Standard Version of the Bible. I mean, you know, when you're dealing with scholarship, there comes a point to where just because their personal beliefs go against the truth doesn't mean that everything they do has to be thrown out. I mean, you know, the statement was made that Bart Ehrman is a Greek scholar and knows Greek forwards and backwards, but yet, you know, he doesn't believe you know, orthodox things. But does that mean that, you know, some of his work on Greek is wrong? No, not necessarily. Same thing with Metzger, same thing with Goodspeed, same thing with Moffat. I mean, all these guys. So anyway, that was the biggest thing about this video. There's some other things he said which I'm gonna I'll touch on the next video. Sorry it's taking so long, but you know, I needed to spend some time on that because, you know, these things kind of pop up and say, hey, look at me, look at me. So keep watching, please.